we're still continuing our conversation around what has transpired whilst we seem to be nearing the end of closure in Kwara, I beg your pardon, in Kebbi State, because we still know that questions need to be asked. There are loose ends there that we hope will be tightened, and that the return of the girls' lodger spell case closed, you know. We were hoping that, you know, questions will be answered there, but we're also turning our attention to what has now transpired in another community in Isakpa village, close to Eruku, where this initial 38 worshippers were abducted. And we're speaking with two gentlemen from Kwara this morning. Mr. Wahab Shitu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, joins us from our Lagos studios. It's good to have you join us on the program this morning. And we also have joining us virtually Comrade Abduction Bello, who is a retired university don and also of the Department of Political Science, an advocate of Igbomina, liberty, and Northern Yoruba nationality. Interestingly, he's a chieftain of the APC as well. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. So, on the one hand, we really want to celebrate, but certainly this new news of 11 people being kidnapped, after we also heard that 4 people were killed now on the farm when they were trying to harvest their crops, and then 38 people returned after they were taken from a church in Eruku in Kwara State, is giving us mixed feelings as to what exactly is happening. What is this new siege that seems to have befallen Kwara State? Can you give us your own insights into what you're hearing on the ground? Let me start with you, Comrade Abduction Bello.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians. The crisis on hand, that is the insecurity in Kwara State, is not new. It's not new. It is rooted in the lopsidedness of the 1914 amalgamation. The amalgamation of 1914 was condemned by our political leaders, notably Chief Obafemi Awolowo. He described the amalgamation as Nigeria, amalgamated Nigeria was a mere geographical expression. Sir Ahmadu Bello described it as a mistake. Looking at the underpinnings of these two definitions, we discover that Kwara, especially the Yoruba part of Kwara State, was by accident carved from their kith and kin to be part of, the North. So the current crisis is generated, it has its base in the North, but now spreading into the other parts of the country. So the kidnapping, ransom taking, herdsmen, farmers, crisis, they are designed by a mafia, a northern mafia, to continue to dominate the political space. As a matter of fact, this current crisis started as elders, farmers, clash, which was a design for expansionist agenda of the northern mafia. So we thank God all the crises, in Kwara South, especially in Ekiti and Igbomina areas of Kwara South, are being handled dispassionately by the government. And we are happy that those who are kidnapped in Eruku have all been released. They came back home, peacefully. Those who were kidnapped in Isakpa recently, some of them have also been released. Unfortunately, we lost some lives. there. Now, if you look at the pattern of the attack, it follows the same trajectory of the jihadists. The jihadists. So the crisis is not about religion. It is not. They have to go to the CAC church in order to give it religious coloration, to bring a wedge between the Muslim and Christians in Kwara South. There has never been a religious crisis in Kwara South between the Muslims and Christians. But the bandits they continue to attack churches in order to give it that coloration. They will never succeed. They will never. Again,
Comrade, if I may interrupt you, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I see that, on the one hand, you're tracing this back to over 100 years ago. I mean, you are tracing the problems back to, you're trying to give it some historical context. Some people will say, oh, this seems to be feeding into something else. I mean, some people have termed it, one of the conspiracy theories that we're currently dealing with. And you seem to be trying to buttress this with what on the one hand, you say they're trying to give it a religious coloration, and yet you call the people who have attacked jihadists, which by itself is also a religious term. And some people say maybe you should just call them what they are, terrorists, and that's precisely who they are. But let me go to Mr. Wahab Shitu, who is in our Lagos studio. I'll give you time. I'll come back to you. I'll give you time to expatiate on what exactly you mean, because some people will say this actually is failure of, of security, failure of governance at the local levels. There are multiple layers to what exactly it is that we're saying, but you are tracing yours, and you're very well within your rights to do so, to, the historical background. But let me see if Mr. Wahab Shitu shares your own definition of what this crisis is all about. Mr. Shitu, thank you so much for your patience this morning. I'm sure that you are also looking with concern at what is happening in your own home state of Kwara. Can you tell us what you're hearing on the ground from the people in your state?
Well, just to correct you, I'm Dr. Wahab Shitu now. I'm no longer Mr. Shitu, so my status has improved. But beyond that, let's go straight. I don't think it is useful to begin to look at what is happening.
Mr. Shitu, I don't know if you heard me.
You said you were asking about my own perspective about what is going on in Kwara State from the feedback I've received from our people at home. And what I'm trying to illustrate is that it is not helpful to begin to color whatever is happening in Kwara State or any other part of the country under the guise of conspiracy theories. So I do not completely share the perspective of the first speaker. I think it is important to see what is going on in Kwara State and other parts of the country as serious crimes against humanity. I'm prepared to even share your perspective that this is also a manifestation of terrorism. The people of Kwara South, like other parts of the country, are exposed to terrorist activities, whether in the name of insurgency or in the name of banditry or in the name of, cattle rustling. So what is going on is terrorist activities being unleashed on the people of Kwara State. And it is important for us to recognize that this is a very serious problem that has to be dealt with as such. The people of Kwara South are under siege. Ifelodun people, the people of Ekiti State, Ekiti, parts of Kwara State, and Pategi and all those areas have been in danger of, have been exposed to terrorist activities. And we should see it in that context in order to be able to deal with the problem. Has the government risen to the occasion? Yes. The government, both at the federal and the state levels, have risen to the occasion. By promptly deploying security operatives to the scene and then ensuring some of those affected are released. And so we need to commend government for this. But beyond this, I think it's also necessary for us to, for government to, focus attention on the Kwara State and other communities who are facing this kind of a problem. Not just Kwara State alone, other parts of the country. It will not be useful to begin to apportion blames at this stage. I think as Nigerians, my own advocacy is that we should collaborate with government, we should cooperate with government, we should show more understanding for what is going on. We have a serious problem in our hands, not only in Kwara South, in other parts of the country. And the government is making some efforts. But we can say that the efforts being made by government are not enough, because our security agencies appear to have been overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem they are confronting with presently. And I also don't think the answer lies in calling for direct foreign military intervention in our affairs.
Just 1 second, Dr. Shitu, if you can hear me.
Yes.
I'm uncertain if you really, if the context of the question that Markwaya asked is really being given attention yet. We'll take a short break, but when we return, maybe you want to give it a thought or two, which is the fact that these things happen in communities, and communities have their systems. How could this happen? How can we prevent these things from happening again? 2 have happened in Kwara within the space of how many days or weeks? And this can't continue. Every one of us agree on that. But we'll take a short break, Dr. Shitu. When we return, we'll take on that and a number of other issues. So stay with us. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Now, Dr. Shitu, let's quickly come back to you about the conversation and the whole idea of this rising wave of kidnapping, particularly in Kwara communities. Underline the word communities here. The question that is on the minds of a number of people that, and I think Marco mentioned this earlier, we didn't always have kidnapping. These things have come, and we need to put an end to it, because at the end of the day, if we are not careful, we are already determining the lives, the trajectory of the lives of the people that are being directly affected. So, in your own opinion, and from what you know, you talked about what the government is doing. How about the communities themselves? Is there a way we can create some kind of defense mechanism? We hear a good number of people saying that the local government administrations, need to sit up, needs to get up. They have their own security councils as well. They have their own security meetings, security committees, whatever. But it will seem like all of that has pretty much been subsided now for one reason or the other. How significant is that in this new wave of kidnappings, particularly in Kwara communities?
Thank you very much. I think there is no doubt that we need to strengthen community-based protection if we want to address this problem, particularly in Kwara South. First, you have also identified part of the problems. Our borders around Kwara South and the other communities in that area, the borders are porous, which allows the influx of weapons and armed bandits, into these areas without checks. So there's a need for the community, for communities around these areas, like you have pointed out, to strengthen, community-based mechanisms that will stem this tide. And how do we do that? The local government, like as rightly pointed out administration must be strengthened to address this problem by involving not only community leaders, but also local security architecture like vigilantes and some other measures that could be deployed at that level to ensure that not only is the safety of the people guaranteed, the people have to take over the security of the areas themselves. What I'm saying in this is that they cannot rely on the efforts of the state government alone. The community themselves, at all levels, must strengthen their capacity to deal with these problems. Because some of these bandits enter these communities from other parts of the country because their borders are porous. They are not sufficiently, protected. And if you also look at it very critically, you also find out that the security agencies appear to be overwhelmed. Inadequate support and staffing of the security agencies at the level of the state. You will recall that in the case of the Kwara State, Kwara South situation, when it happened, the state governor had to urgently convey security meetings, state security meeting, where all the stakeholders, traditional rulers, local government chairmen, and some other critical stakeholders in the security architecture were assembled. So I think if you want to address what is going on here, at the level of the community, security has to be beefed up, and then you have to involve everybody in the process. Traditional rulers, local government chairmen of these areas, including local vigilante groups, ought to be mobilized to ensure that they take the issue of security seriously and not leave it in the hands of government and the state or federal level.
Dr. Shitu, just 1 second, if you can hear me, perhaps one of the issues we are dealing with here is whether or not the deterrence, there is any deterrence, or whether or not it is strong enough. Just yesterday, Honorable Ben Kalu is making a proposition, particularly concerning government officials, that criminal penalties, they're proposing provision of criminal penalties for government officials who negotiate ransom or authorize unstructured amnesty deals. That is one. Number two, he's saying mandatory prosecution through the criminal justice system for all banditry suspects. In the first place, I'm not sure if anyone can come out and say we have had some banditry suspects that have been prosecuted. I don't know. Maybe I missed the news. This particular instance we're hearing of, for instance, we hear what the IGP said, and I don't even want to talk about it because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So, do you think this provision of the House of Reps is even scratching the surface? And secondly, what exactly can be a strong enough deterrence? Because this has gone on for too long, Dr. Shitu.
I agree with you. There's no way the society can be effectively protected if there are no consequences for criminal infractions. I think the laws are there but in our statute books to deal with problems like this. But the question that we need to answer is whether these laws are effectively enforced and whether culprits are effectively brought to book. And so the advocacy really should be that there should be consequences for criminal infractions. Those who commit crimes against our people, whether in the name of banditry or in the name of terrorism, ought to be brought to book. And then we need to also ensure that the crime of terrorism, for instance, is not assigned to just the Federal High Court to prosecute, because by our laws now, only the Federal High Court has jurisdiction to deal with terrorist, prosecution. We should amend our laws to ensure that even the High Court and some other, cost of that level, or even set up special costs to deal with the scourge. Because indeed, when people get away, kidnapping people with reckless abandon, raiding churches, raiding mosques without consequences, then they are encouraged to do more. So I agree with you that we need to strengthen our law enforcement mechanisms to ensure that those who perpetrate these atrocities against our people are brought to book. I think my own advocacy would be to say, let us treat what is going on as a crime. And you don't pacify those who carry out criminal activities. You apply the law very forcefully and effectively without discrimination in order to serve as deterrent for others who may be inclined to want to engage in such activities. So I think beyond
all right,
that...
Dr. Shit.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. We do have another guest who is still with us virtually, and he's also been very patient. I know that only recently, when the president met with the security chiefs over the weekend, part of what he gave them as a directive was the immediate withdrawal of policemen from VIPs. Some media houses have estimated that that should give us an additional 100,000 policemen available for security and policing the generality of the Nigerian people. So let me go to Comrade Abdurauf Bello, who is a retired professor. Professor, I know that this suspicion of historical context continues to reign supreme, especially when we go back in time and when we look at the nature of what it is that we're currently facing. But some people will say that this has only been made possible because there has been a lack of governance. The local government system has broken down. We do not have local policing, and there's been no local law enforcement. And that if there was at least that barrier and they were overwhelmed, then we would say, oh, okay, maybe these ones are a lot stronger and a lot more powerful than what we had. But we've had none in place. Are you saying steps towards waking up or towards building what ought to be a local government system effectively to be able to at least assure people, residents at the local level, that their lives matter as well?
Well, thank you very much. But before I address your question, let me quickly make a correction. I'm not a professor. I'm not a professor, although I retired as a senior lecturer from the university. Having said that, I mentioned the other time that the bandits are, jihadists. I gave them that classification because, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not aware of any law enacted by the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria declaring these people as terrorists. And that is a very great lacuna that has been hindering the federal government to give them the terrorist treatment, the type of which President Donald Trump is expecting from the government of Nigeria. That is why those people have yet to be declared by the federal government as terrorists. So put that one aside. The local government system and the recruitment into the police, etc., are not going to be the solution. They are part of it, but they are not. The solution to the insecurity in this country is to go back to the factory setting of this country, the regionalism. Regionalism where each region or each state or zone, whatever name you call them, will have their own police, their own civil service, their own education system. All these will bring the criminals to book. Before 1966, we had native authority police in Ilorin province, Ilorin Kaba province. They were up to the task. face all the security, they understand the terrain, they are familiar with the terrain. But now you bring, indigenes of, Anambra, Kanu, Kaduna, to come and police in Kwara State. How can that be effective? It cannot. But I agree with you that the local government system should be autonomous. Yes, and this is what Mr. President has been clamoring for as soon as he assumed office. But the governors are the greatest impediments, the stopping block on this line of thought of Mr. President. So we have to appeal to the governors, all of the 36 governors, to please act quickly. We thank God the Southwest governors met, maybe on Monday, and they have resolved that they are going to establish their own police in their state. Yes, I expect Kwara also to join them in this, project. The Kwara should join them. Now, the traditional rulers in Kwara State, I think we have to commend them, because I understand that each of the traditional rulers contribute. They have established security fund among themselves. One of them is even the Olupako of Share from my own local government, is the chairman of that security committee. They levy themselves. The first class, they pay 200,000 monthly. The second class, 100, third class, 50, and the fourth class, 25,000. So if they can do this much, the government of the state should also remunerate them by improving their welfare, so that they can discharge. All crimes are local. There's no way you can police Isapa, Babanda, Okeode, Sahare from Ilori. It is not going to be possible. It is not going to be easy.
All right.
We have to decentralize all this so that life and property could be secured and safe.
Well, Comrade, I wish we had more time to continue this discussion, because you certainly are bringing in insights that we don't get every day. We have to thank you very much for speaking with us this morning. Comrade Abduraouf Bello is a retired senior lecturer at the university. He's also the advocate of Igbominà liberty and Northern Yoruba nationality, and a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress. We also had in our Lagos studios Dr. Wahab Shitu, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much for speaking with us on the program, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.